The Ocean of Story, being C.H. Tawney's translation of Somadeva's Kathasaritsagara, Volume 1, narrated by Anita Saran. The Ocean of Story is one of the world's oldest and richest collections of tales, composed in ancient India over 1,000 years ago. These stories were never meant to stand alone. They flow into one another like waves, each tale opening the door to the next, creating a vast narrative ocean of wonder, wit, and imagination. In this series, I read from the classic English translation by Charles Henry Tawney, a public domain work preserving the original rhythm, humour, and storytelling spirit. The stories retain their frame tales and interwoven structure, just as they were originally told, as living, unfolding narration rather than isolated fables. These tales feature kings, sages, demons, clever women, wandering ascetics, talking animals, riddles, magic, and sudden reversals of fate. They were enjoyed by both adults and children for their entertainment value and moral insight. This narration is offered for listeners of all ages, for children discovering stories for the first time, and for adults returning to them with fresh ears. Welcome to the Ocean of Story. Step in and let the current carry you. Chapter 1. May the dark neck of Shiva, which the god of love has, so to speak, surrounded with nooses in the form of the alluring looks of Parvati reclining on his bosom, assign to you prosperity. May that victor of obstacles, who after sweeping away the stars with his trunk in the delirious joy of the evening dance, seems to create others with the spray issuing from his hissing mouth, protect you. After worshipping the goddess of speech, the lamp that illuminates countless objects, compose this collection which contains the pith of the Vrihat Katha. The first book in my collection is called Kathapita. Then comes Kathamukha. Then the third book named Lavanaka. Then follows Naravahana Datta Janana, and then the book called Chaturdarika, and then Madana Manchuka, then the seventh book named Ratna Prabha, and then the eighth book named Surya Prabha, then Alankaravati, then Sakti Yasas, and then the 11th book called Vela, then comes Sasankavati, and then Madiravati. Then comes a book called Pancha, followed by Mahabhisheka, and then Surata Manjari, then Padmavati, and then will follow the 18th book, Visham Sila. This book is precisely on the model of that from which it is taken. There is not even the slightest deviation. Only such language is selected as tends to abridge the prolixity of the work, the observance of propriety and natural connection, and the joining together of the portions of the poem so as not to interfere with the spirit of the stories are as far as possible kept in view. I have not made this attempt through desire of a reputation for ingenuity, but in order to facilitate the recollection of a multitude of various tales. There is a mountain, celebrated under the name of Himavat, haunted by Kinnaras, Gandharvas, and Vidyadharas, a very monarch of mighty hills, whose glory has attained such an eminence among mountains that Bhavani, the mother of the three worlds, deigned to become his daughter. The northernmost summit thereof is a great peak named Kailasha, which towers many thousand yojanas in the air, and as it were, laughs forth with a snowy gleams this boast. Mount Mandara did not become white as mortar, even when the ocean was churned with it. But I have become such without an effort. There dwells Maheshwara, the beloved of Parvati, the chief of things animate and inanimate, attended upon by Ganas, Vidyadharas and Siddhas. In the upstanding yellow tufts of his matted hair, the new moon enjoys the delight of touching the eastern mountain yellow in the evening twilight. When he drove his trident into the heart of Andhaka, the king of the Asuras, though he was only one, the dart which that monarch had infixed in the heart of the three worlds was, strange to say, extracted. The image of his toenails being reflected in the crest jewels of the gods and Asuras made them seem as if they had been presented with half moons by his favour. Once on a time, that lord, the husband of Parvati, was gratified with praises by his wife, having gained confidence as she sat in secret with him. The moon crested one attentive to her praise and delighted, placed her on his lap and said, "What can I do to please thee?" Then the daughter of the mountain spake, "My lord, if thou art satisfied with me, then tell me some delightful story that is quite new." And Shiva said to her, "What can there be in the world, my beloved, present, past or future, that thou dost not know?" Then that goddess, beloved of Shiva, importuned him eagerly because she was proud in soul on account of his affection. Then Shiva, wishing to flatter her, began by telling her a very short story, referring to her own divine power. Once on a time, Brahma and Narayana, roaming through the world in order to behold me, came to the foot of Himavat. Then they beheld there in front of them a great flame linga. In order to discover the end of it, one of them went up and the other down. And when they could not find the end of it, they proceeded to propitiate me by means of austerities. And I appeared to them and bade them ask for some boon. Hearing that Brahma asked me to become his son, on that account he has ceased to be worthy of worship, disgraced by his overweening presumption. Then that god Narayana craved a boon of me, saying, "O revered one, may I become devoted to thy service." Then he became incarnate and was born as mine in thy form, for thou art the same as Narayana, the power of me, all powerful. Moreover, thou wast my wife in a former birth. When Shiva had thus spoken, Parvati asked, "How can I have been thy wife in a former birth?" Then Shiva answered her, "Long ago to the Prajapati Daksha were born many daughters, and amongst them thou, O goddess. He gave thee in marriage to me, and the others to Dharma, and the rest of the gods. Once on a time he invited all his sons-in-law to a sacrifice, but I alone was not included in the invitation. Thereupon thou didst ask him to tell thee why thy husband was not invited. Then he uttered a speech which pierced thy ears like a poisoned needle. Thy husband wears a necklace of skulls. How can he be invited to a sacrifice? And then thou, my beloved, didst in anger abandon thy body, exclaiming, "This father of mine is a villain. What profit have I then in this carcass sprung from him?" And thereupon, in wrath, I destroyed that sacrifice of Daksha. Then thou wast born as a daughter of the mount of snow, as the moon's digit springs from the sea. Then recall how I came to the Himalaya in order to perform austerities. And thy father ordered thee to do me service as his guest. And there the god of love, who had been sent by the gods, in order that they might obtain from me a son to oppose Taraka, was consumed when endeavouring to pierce me, having obtained a favourable opportunity. Then I was purchased by thee, the enduring one, with severe austerities, and I accepted this proposal of thine, my beloved, in order that I might add this merit to my stock. Thus it is clear that thou wast my wife in a former birth. What else shall I tell thee? Thus Shiva spake, and when he had ceased, the goddess, transported with wrath, exclaimed, Thou art a deceiver! Thou wilt not tell me a pleasing tale, even though I ask thee. Do I not know that thou worshipst Sandhya and bearest Ganga on thy head? Hearing that, Shiva proceeded to conciliate her and promised to tell her a wonderful tale. Then she dismissed her anger. She herself gave the order that no one was to enter where they were. Nandin thereupon kept the door, and Shiva began to speak. The gods are supremely blessed. Men are ever miserable. The actions of demigods are exceedingly charming. Therefore, I now proceed to relate to thee the history of the Vidyadharas. While Shiva was thus speaking to his consort, there arrived a favourite dependent of Shiva's, Pushpadanta, best of Ganas, and his entrance was forbidden by Nandin, who was guarding the door. Curious to know why even he had been forbidden to enter at that time without any apparent reason, Pushpadanta immediately entered, making use of his magic power, attained by devotion to prevent his being seen. And when he had thus entered, he heard all the extraordinary and wonderful adventures of the 7 Vidyadharas being narrated by the trident-bearing god. And having heard them, he in turn went and narrated them to his wife Jaya. For who can hide wealth or a secret from women? Jaya, the doorkeeper, being filled with wonder, went and recited it in the presence of Parvati. How can women be expected to restrain their speech? And then the daughter of the mountain flew into a passion and said to her husband, Thou didst not tell me any extraordinary tale, for Jaya knows it also. Then the Lord of Uma, perceiving the truth by profound meditation, thus spake. Pushpadanta, employing the magic power of devotion, entered in where we were, and thus managed to hear it. He narrated it to Jaya. No one else knows it, my beloved. Having heard this, the goddess, exceedingly enraged, caused Pushpadanta to be summoned and cursed him as he stood trembling before her, saying, Become a mortal, thou disobedient servant. She cursed also the Gana Malyavan, who presumed to intercede on his behalf. Then the two fell at her feet together with Jaya and entreated her to say when the curse would end. And the wife of Shiva slowly uttered this speech. A yaksha named Supratika, who has been made a pisacha by the curse of Kuvera, is residing in the Vindhya forest under the name of Kanabhuti. When thou shalt see him, and calling to mind thy origin, tell him this tale then, Pushpadanta, thou shalt be released from this curse. And when Malavan shall hear this tale from Kanabhuti, then Kanabhuti shall be released, and thou, Malavan, when thou hast published it abroad, shalt be free also. Having thus spoken, the daughter of the mountain ceased, and immediately those Ganas disappeared instantaneously, like flashes of lightning. Then it came to pass, in the course of time, that Gauri, full of pity, asked Shiva, My lord, where on the earth have those excellent Pramathas whom I curse been born? And the moon-diademed god answered, My beloved, Pushpadanta has been born under the name of Vararuchi in that great city which is called Kausambi. Moreover, Malyavan also has been born in the splendid city called Supratishtita under the name of Gunadhya. This, O goddess, is what has befallen them. Having given her this information with grief caused by recalling to mind the degradation of the servants that had always been obedient to him, that Lord continued to dwell with his beloved in pleasure arbours on the slopes of Mount Kailasha, which were made of the branches of the kalpa tree.